Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Haunted Hearsay. We're back again. We've taken a longer break than we did last time, but we're back again, and we're going to give you the origins of sound, etc. tonight. So, just by way of introduction, anyone that doesn't remember us, my name's Caroline. I'm here in Gweedore, and I'm joined by Ben. Ben's in Ballyshannon. How are you, Ben?
Oh, I'm great. Yeah.
Happy Halloween to you.
Happy Halloween. Happy Samhain to everyone.
Samhain greetings.
Yeah. I don't know, you can't really say happy Halloween, happy Samhain to people. But anyway, happy Halloween.
Yes. So well, I know I want to cover again a little bit of the origins of Halloween for us here in Ireland. To be honest, there's quite a lot of differing views. The more you look into it, the ones I'm going by are books that I've had for more than 25 years. And I'm kind of hoping those stories are a bit more sound. And of one of them is through the origins of Halloween is a deity. I'm not sure now whether he was a deity or whether he was a man posing as a deity, Crom Cree or Crom Crua. He was known as the Bowed One, Bowed, the Bowed One.
What does bowed mean?
I'm not sure in this case. I don't know whether it meant he had bowed legs or that's normally what it means, but maybe it means something else, because sometimes the direct translation from Gaelic to English, the meaning can be lost, so I'm really not sure. But I know that Crom Cree preceded the two Danann, and where the original people of Ireland are supposedly were a group of people known as the Partholons. And they were the precursors to the Tuatha De Danann. Before, apart from that, there was a primitive race of man on the island, but none of them, were sort of advanced enough that had fire, etc., until this Partholon crowd came along. He announced himself as deity of all Ireland and imposed a tax on anyone coming on his lands anywhere, or a sacrifice, depending. And so we know that there was a tradition there for Halloween before the Celts came, even though the Celts brought and they celebrated around the same time. Samhain was in Ireland before the Celts came. And it was the end of Samhain, the end of the summer, and the period of darkness. And it's when the gods of darkness would descend. And, if you didn't appease them now, your crops in the spring wouldn't grow properly, or arguments. So it was a time when in Ireland things were settled. This was the time of year that old beefs were settled, old sort of, arguments, things that were put away during the summer because people were busy. Now you got them to the fore and they were done as a community.
Yeah.
But now it's said now that the Fomors and the Nemids, now Nemid and the Nemidians were based up along here, from along the Donegal coast up as far as the Forelands. And the Fomors, now I don't actually know the history of the Fomors. I was trying to look it up there a wee little while ago. I wasn't getting enough information. But we are talking around the time of the Sumerians. The story I heard from a woman here, she's passed since, God rest her soul, Veronica McBride. She was a writer of Irish stories and an absolute mine of information when it came to Irish folklore and history. And she was the woman that told me that it was the Sumerians that came to Tory Island. Now, in the old book that I've been going through, it's the Fomors, and apparently that they built a glass tower on Tory Island. They were just a constant war with the Nemid and his...
For a glass tower.
Sorry?
It's a bit windy there for a glass tower, I'd say.
Absolutely. So, I can't see it, but I haven't said that, Yeah, but anyway, but the story goes that Nemid, they tried to, many times they went north and tried to fight Nemid's tribes, never able to conquer them and never able to get a tax from them or, some sort of payment or sacrifice to appease him, as it were. So, but Nemid and over 2,000 of his tribe died from a pandemic. We have to assume some sort of flu. And so it left his tribe really weak. And when the Fomors attacked again, this time they were successful and decimated most of the tribe. And this Now, this is where I'm a bit lost. Crumcree, if he's a real character, is appointed himself as king of all Ireland at this time and as a god. This is obviously pagan times. And because the Nemid and his people had been so hard to vanquish, basically, when they did, they demanded a terrible sacrifice, which was a third of the children to be presented each day, whichever amount of them, each day of Samhain to be sacrificed to appease Crumcree or Crumcrua. And this was something that was demanded of the children from the north for a couple of years. And then it doesn't say when it died out, or did it die out before the Celts? I think when the Celts came along, they had their own forms of sacrifice, but I think by the time they came here, theirs was more about harvest. And, you know, you've told that story before about the light, where they go and they get the communal light to light their fires and things like that. But their traditions were married into the ancient Irish traditions.
Yeah.
And it was Christianity when St. Patrick brought Christianity here, it was him that got them to stop the sacrifices, especially of children, because even though Nemitz, they demanded a third of their whole tribe, ideally before this, every year it would be like a chief's daughter, or it had to be someone important to appease this god. I mean, that was common all over the world, in every myth, every myth, from the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, to, I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
They were all involved in human sacrifice.
I was doing some research. Well, I stumbled across a video that was like the 90 Irish royal family names. And are you one of those names? And my name wasn't, but your name was.
Was it?
Well, Mac Sweeney of
Maximia.
Yeah, of Donegal, so of Ulster anyway. So there was some noble or king obviously called, but then I was like, all right, well, I'll look up Murphy, and Murphy's very, very common name. I think the most common name in Ireland. And but there's different branches of it, and I knew there was a Wexford connection, and they were named after a lad called Dermot, and I looked it up. He was a king of Leinster, but unfortunately, he's the lad that let the Brits into Ireland.
Oh, oh.
So I was like, oh, okay.
I bet you wish now you hadn't looked it up.
I swear to God, straight after, I was like, oh, okay. I'm gonna just not look up anything else. I don't want to know what that person did. But here we go. Here we are.
Well, there you go. Exactly. Well, I know with
sorry, the reason why I was thinking of it was because they also kidnapped St. Patrick and brought him over to Ireland.
Yeah, he was from a Roman household.
Yeah, they were.
I can't remember what his Roman name was, but he was from a Roman household.
Well, the
Patrick was the name that was bestowed on him here.
The Murphys went to Wales or wherever and kidnapped him.
It was on the border between Wales and whatever that was called at the time, and Mercia. Yeah, so that's a little bit, but as I say, some people will find that it differs. But that's the most consistent I can find. It was originally a time when children were sacrificed, not all children, but selected children, and the higher up in the tribe the child belonged to, then the bigger the sacrifice. So that was stopped. Now, sorry,
it's a bit biblical. They did that what was the?
Well, this would have been. I'm talking at least 2,000 to 3,000 BC.
Yeah.
I'm not talking sort of AD. I'm talking. It is well before. Well, I don't know. I could be exaggerating. I'm talking at least 1,000 BC to 2,000 BC. We know that there were settlements in Ireland 3,000 BC, and possibly settlements pre-Ice Age.
Yeah, how well? So we'll tell everybody, and I can put some pictures up on screen. But we went and visited a dolmen fairly recently.
Yes, that's right. I was actually going to go to that.
And we did some dowsing rods. But how old do you think that dolmen was? Did he say something like 9,000 years old or something?
Yeah, something like that. They had it carbon dated or something. Those students, there's been various students, mature students from different parts of Europe come to examine it. And it's actually in the backyard of this man's house. And what I love about it, it's over near Gortahork, and it's about a mile away from the birthplace of Lua. Lua was the father of Cuchulainn. Always knew Cuchulainn had to have Donegal roots. Always knew it. had to had to have Donegal roots, right? But yeah, so this is only a mile away from there. So that, but it's actually quite significant in that it's beside the sea and looks out. And it's quite a size, even though the top part of the dolmen has come off a bit. But he's had like quite a lot of people come and do all sorts of experiments around it, etc. So
And
yeah,
we did our own experiments with
we did indeed.
we tried the app anyway, and that yielded nothing. And then the man, he had his own dowsing rods, and he brought them out to us, and he walked around first, and then
Yeah.
you had a go of them, and then I had a go after. And what I thought was remarkable was that they went berserk, but they went berserk at two specific places, but for all of us separately.
Yes.
So,
and the weird thing is the vibration of it when it happens.
You could really feel it, and
there's a real vibration of it when it happens.
And in all honesty, that's the first time I've ever held dowsing rods in my life, and we weren't looking for water or anything, but it was like there was ley lines crossing at this point.
Yes.
And like there was a beautiful view, and the eye line was perfect. Everything just seemed really perfectly placed. And I loved that it was kind of buried in a old religious man's garden for years and filled with rubbish, and then this guy now is like brought it back.
Now people can actually look this up. You can Google this. It's the Ardsbeg portal in Donegal. So you can Google it and get more information on it. But yeah, quite a lot of people have gone to, as I say, investigate it and do various sorts of tests, scientific tests. And there is an extreme amount of energy definitely connected, because that was the first thing I said. Do you remember, are there ley lines here? And he says, oh, yes. And I thought you could just feel the energy. You really could. Now, you have a couple of videos.
I have some videos. And I wanted to stick, I know Halloween's a very ghosty time, but because I'd been saving up some videos, I have some UFO videos.
Yes.
And basically, the reason why I wanted to show them to you was where I kept them was because they're Irish pilots.
All right, okay.
Talking about UFOs. And one is from the 60s and one is from 2018. I think it's an English pilot in Irish airspace. So I'll get them up. We'll share my screen. Can you see that?
Yeah.
At first, the frontal cross-section area of this object was so small that I thought it was an aircraft with a highly swept-backed wing. But as it got closer to us and below us, it was obvious that it had no wings at all. And I then considered it to be a meteorological balloon. After it passed us by, from first to last sight, it was approximately 10 seconds, and it then occurred to me that the speed of closing was so great that it couldn't possibly be a free balloon. I have no idea what it could be, and I passed the report to London Airways.
How big was the object?
Well, it's very difficult to assess the size of any object while it's flying. All I can say, the closest I can get to it is that it was smaller than a Viscount.
Was it traveling at any great speed?
Well, the closing speed of both the object and my own aircraft was up in the region of 1,000 miles an hour, which means that the object itself must have been doing at least 600 to 700 miles an hour.
Were there any windows in it?
not to my knowledge, no.
Was it powered in any way?
Well, it must have been powered, and a free balloon we would only approach it at the speed of our own aircraft, which is 300 miles an hour. So it must have been powered. The speed of closing was much too great for it to be a free balloon.
Did anybody else witness the object?
Yeah, First Officer Murphy, my co-pilot.
Sorry for laughing there. Do you know, I'm just laughing because the
Does your
silly
man
questions
look
he's
like
asking him.
Yeah.
What speed do you think it was going at? Did it have anyone?
Well, that's the year after my mother was born, so she's in her 60s. So, that's a long time ago and very interesting. And you never really see this stuff from Ireland for some reason.
Well, my mother told me a story now the other day, and this is to do with sort of UFOs or whatever as well. Herself and my father used to play music. He's passed away since, God rest his soul. And they were coming, this is about 40 odd years ago I'm talking about, and they're coming into Dunlow from Kincastle direction, and they're in a van, and as they're coming up towards Dunlow, now they're up past where the Cope is at Shaskinarone. Now there's lots of houses and everything there now, but there was nothing there then. And it was like literally the middle of the night, coming back from my dad was coming back from playing music in a pub down there. And Mum says it was like a helicopter just appeared above them. It wasn't appeared above them, but it was all of a sudden they could hear the noise. And she says it was literally as if a helicopter had almost landed on the top of the van. And she's her and Dad were looking at it thinking, the two of them are kind of driving along, trying to look out to see it, but it was pitch dark. There were no lights, but this noise was still there. And it lasted, she said, for at least a minute, and then it was gone as quickly as it came. Wow. You don't know what it was.
And this was back in a long time ago.
Yeah, this would have been back now in the 70s.
Yeah.
Back in the mid 70s.
And it's so desolate. Like I was over where you live, and on the way you kind of drive through all the old roads, and obviously nothing's lit up, and it's dark now in the evenings, and driving through.
When it gets that dark here, literally you can walk along the road and put your hand in front of you and not see your hand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what you call real black dark here, especially coming into November now. Well, I do have, my mother was telling me, do you remember we've talked before about going out the Line Road and how it's like very haunted?
Yeah.
Well, there was so many stories, like apparently in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot more, but the same story, but from so many different people about this girl that used to appear in cars beside people if they were driving out the line. Or she'd be walking along the side of the road, and once people would slow down to stop for her, there was nobody there. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the story I told before of the girl that was rushing home because she'd heard her mother had taken a turn, and she was rushing home to see her. And she was coming over the Line Road and crashed and couldn't get her car started. So when she got out and stopped the next car that came along, that car gave her a lift home. She said she was so anxious she had to get home to see her mother. And she dropped her off at the road end, up near our Duns, up at the road end of the house, and watched her walk down the lane, and just thought, oh, I hope her mother's okay, and glad she got home. And it was a few weeks later, she just happened to be going past, and she thought, I'm just going to go in and check and see, did she get in okay, and did she get the car sorted, etc. And she went up to the door and knocked on the door, and when the mother answered, and she said, I gave your daughter a lift home a couple of weeks ago, you had a turn. And the woman's face went white, and she said, my daughter had a car accident on the way home, she never made it home. So that woman had given, the daughter obviously had died so suddenly and didn't know she was dead.
Yeah. And
in her mind, she's left a car behind that she's taken off the road, and but I need to get home.
That's spooky,
isn't it? It's also very sad.
Yeah.
It's also very sad, but it is spooky. But apparently that girl appeared now many times. My mother also had another story about her and my father going to Fulcarra, and it was out the Line Road. And but the thing is, they were very aware that there was this person would appear at people's cars, or so they were aware of it. And none of the two of them were brave about it. So they were kind of watching, and she said, right enough, and when they got out into the middle of along the Line Road, and it's a very long stretch of still a very long stretch of road, And sure enough, they passed a figure, but they couldn't make out what it was. And they kind of slowed down because, well, in the 70s, everybody gave people lifts, you know, that was the sort of thing you did. And they kind of slowed down. And Mum said it was like a whoosh of cold air just come through the car. They looked at each other and just went, nah, it's all right. And they just carried on. They're not stopping for anybody.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I was going to show another a more modern Irish UFO report, and then do you want to tell us about the sighting that you have?
Yes.
Have some pictures. So I'll show you my thing really quickly. We'll get out of the way. It's another minute long. And I guess the reason why I'm showing them is because you don't get Irish UFO recordings that often. So when they're here, they should be highlighted. Share screen.
There's nothing showing on either primary or secondary.
Okay, it was moving so fast, in fact, you can no longer see it, but yes, thank you.
990. 555, thank you. Along the side here?
Yes. It's to come up on our left-hand side and rapidly veer to the north, being so bright light, and then it's just disappeared at a very high speed. I'm still just wondering, it didn't think it was a likely collision course, we're just wondering what that could be.
Meteor or another object making some kind of re-entry. Appears to be multiple objects following the same sort of trajectory. Very bright from where we were.
Okay, that's copied. And is there a direction it was going in or anything? Right, it's copied. Thank you.
The Virgin 76 also saw that in our 11 o'clock position. Two bright lights.
Roger, that's copied. Thank you.
Glad it wasn't just me. No, yeah, very interesting, that one.
Say again. Okay, thank you.
Wow.
Virgin 76. I saw two bright lights, 11 o'clock, seem to back over to the right and then climb away at speed, at least from our perspective.
Okay, we're passing that on now. Thank you.
Speedbird 94, Shannon.
Wow. See the way that whoever was trying to be the voice of reason in the middle there and say, oh, it's probably a meteor re-entry.
Yeah.
You think, yeah, and sat and watched them and then took off. I don't think that's how meteors work, is it?
No, and multiple pilots. So of course they're seeing stuff out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the American government have admitted it now.
Yeah.
You know, that they have had lots of sightings, and they have, I mean, also, I mean, let's face it, from Roswell happened, what was it, less than 2 years after the first nuclear weapons tested in America. And they admitted that, so that as any nuclear testing that's ever been done on Earth since, and unfortunately, there's been an awful lot by all different countries, have done all sorts of exercises from France, America, you know, I'm sure England has, I don't know who else has weapons, but they've all given them a go. And the one thing that they have in common are these three bright lights that appear in the sky before, during, and after the testing. And then it's like this come and sit and observe it and then leave again. And they've admitted now that they don't know, this is something that's happened in China, it's happened wherever they've done, as I say, testing. And they've all admitted to the same sort of formation of three lights and how they come in and the size of them, etc. And it's like they just come and observe and then they leave, but it is all round nuclear testing. So it's very possible that I mean, the fact that the American government have admitted this and the other governments have admitted it, you know, it makes you think, well, what are they not admitting to? You know, what are they keeping to themselves if they're now admitting? And, you know, this is something big about to come out, and it'll be a case of, I don't know. I mean, it sort of, it makes you think.
Well, I heard Trump was going to say something at one point about aliens and then didn't.
Oh, I wish he had.
Yeah, it would have been.
I mean, it wasn't much else he kept his tongue about.
All right, and then so I was going through the pictures that I took the other day, and
yeah. I had an incident there a couple of weeks ago, and I had gone down. I live quite near the beach here, and I was driving down towards the beach, and it was late at night, and I came to the bottom of the hill, and for the first time, I'd say since I was a teenager, I saw a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I literally saw a ghost, and I just stopped the car and I looked. And the reason I know that it was a ghost is because where I was parked, I was sort of just about to go over a little hill. So my lights were up like that. And the figure passed from one set of wind bushes to another, but from the top of them to the other. And what you couldn't see in my line of vision is that there's a dip in that road.
Yeah.
So I had to be at least 8 feet off the road. And it was just this figure, just as if it was running over across it, just there. Yeah, I was kind of sitting on the hill and it was in that dip, but it was like from the top of the tree down across to the top of the wind bushes. And it just looked like someone running.
That's interesting that it was up high.
Yeah, because it's pitch dark. When I was there, it was pitch dark. So the only thing was the car lights.
Yeah.
And I seen it run across in front of me, and I knew that there was no road end there, or where it's just wind bushes on that side and the tree and wind bushes on the other side. And I got quite a fright, I have to be honest. I sort of sat there and I looked and I thought, oh my God. I drove down to the bottom of the beach and I turned and I wasn't brave enough to stay there. I just sort of spent the whole time coming up the road going, please don't appear beside me in the car.
Don't jump in the car with me.
Yeah, that was, so I'm going to look into that. I haven't had an opportunity to do that. That was literally only last week or so, and you took the pictures there the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look into it and see if anybody down there has had any experiences. I remember my granny Gillespie, God rest her soul, talking about down at the bridge down there. There's a small bridge you cross over, being haunted. Now, she might have said that so we wouldn't go down there.
And was it a girl or a guy or indiscriminate, or like, did you not know?
No, it looked like a guy. It just looked like a guy running. Everything about it wasn't scary, apart from the fact how I was going from the top of one, across the road, and there were no feet.
There were no feet, yeah.
There were no feet.
It's like,
but I got such a shock. I literally froze to the spot. And I wasn't in a position where I would have had to reverse quite a bit to turn around. Yeah. And so I just kept driving. And the whole time I was just gripping the wheel, thinking, please don't appear beside me. I am not brave. I am not brave.
Yeah. It is super spooky. Like the roads around here at night are just like
there's no road lights or house lights or anything down that road when you get to a certain point, and it can be very spooky. So that was, I don't know why now after all this time, I hear whispers. I would be quite psychic and I would hear whispers and I would hear people talk to me occasionally. Well, I'd hear people talk to me quite a lot, if I'm honest. I would catch glimpses out the corner of my eye. So I know when I have a presence around me, but I literally haven't seen a spook, a ghost, a spectre or a spirit, whatever you want to call it, since I was a teenager. I'd say I've been about 16, and I remember that very well. That was the parochial hall in Dunlow.
Well, you've had experiences, so like when we
I've had many psychic experiences, but to see a full-on spectral, a full-on ghost image. I've only ever had that happen twice before in my life, and then last week was the third time. And I just thought, I can be psychic without having to see ghosts. I don't need to be able to do that. I don't understand why it has to be at night. I mean, if they want to appear to you, I could probably deal with it if it was during the day. But at night, and I always think round here, they're bound to be relatives of mine because I'm related to everybody around here. So, I mean, any ghosties I'm bumping into are probably, ancient relatives. Maybe it doesn't make it any less scary though.
Yeah, if they spook you out, you should be like, I'm probably related to you. Go away.
Yeah, start shouting. Yes, well, what I've loved this year about Halloween is how into it everyone's been, even since the start of the month. It's become a build-up now, the way they do to Christmas.
It's like Halloween,
which is nice because it is really the ancient Irish New Year.
Yeah, it's what it should be. If Christmas has a month, well then Halloween should have a whole month to celebrate.
Yeah. I've enjoyed I love the fact that so many people made an effort. We went to Leo's Tavern on Saturday night, myself and yourself, and we just went over to have a look and to just sort of join in. And it was very impressive, the amount of people that dressed up, and the costumes were fantastic. It was thoroughly enjoyable. I was glad we went over for a run. And it was just lovely to see the effort that everyone's made. So I mean, this is definitely a time of the year that I thoroughly enjoy. Today is also my father's 35th anniversary. But this was also his favorite time of the year too. So it was always very, I don't know whether you would call it serendipity that he died on his favorite day, or ironic, whatever. But yeah, so I remember him and I celebrate him at the same time. And so this for me was a nice Halloween. And it was nice to catch up again, and we should do this more often. We will definitely do it before Christmas, because I love that story as well, the stories we have of the origins of Christmas. So we're definitely going to come back to do that. But if we can come up with any more ghost stories in the meantime, or if I have any more hauntings, or see any more spooks,
I'll let you know.
We'll be back sooner. But if you have any stories or anything, anyone watching, we have 10 viewers, don't we? So if any use of a ghost story or any sightings, please tell us. We'll do all the homework. We'll do the legwork and see what we can find out about it. But feel free to send us in anything at all. We'd be very happy to sit and tell it. So do you have anything else, Ben, you want to share?
Actually, I just have one more UFO thing. It's really...
Yeah, go for it.
I sound like I'm obsessed with UFOs, but I'm not really.
I kind of am at the moment. I never used to be, but I kind of am now.
I never used to be, but like every time, do you know what? I'm obsessed with TikTok, and I keep finding good stuff on it, because it's not like
we don't have lives. That's what it is. We don't have lives. We just research and research and research.
Well, if this is research, then I don't know what. But okay, so this is basically a passenger on an airplane.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna turn the sound off or down because it's annoying. It's copyrighted. So looking out the window, I see the little dot.
Oh, right.
You'll see them moving now. It's camera moving, but weird out the window of a plane.
It's very strange, isn't it?
Yeah. There you go. And
was there a date attached to that or anywhere?
That looks more modern anyway, so definitely late. I'd say it's recent. Whereas the first video I showed was pilot from 1962. The second one was multiple pilots from 2018 in Irish airspace, and then the last one was probably in America.
Yeah, there's an awful lot more. I mean, there's an awful lot more information as well. But I mean, if you watch any of the Discovery or the Sky History channels at the moment, they have done they're uncovering a lot. And you have an awful lot of like sort of ex-servicemen or ex-CIA or ex-this, ex-that that are quite happy to sit and talk about their experiences now. It's perfectly acceptable to do it. Now, obviously, there's still an awful lot they're keeping very close to their chest about Roswell and exactly what happened there. But yeah, there's definitely a lot more activity that I'd say is now. They can't hide it because of the amount of phones. Everybody has a phone. Yeah. Everybody can film something. You know, they can't hide things the way they used to.
I love seeing all the videos from all around the world.
Listen, yeah, that was us. We're back. Just a kind of a recap on things we've talked about before. Yeah. And so, yeah, please like, subscribe. If you like and subscribe, we'll come back with more stories. We'll make more of an effort to come back sooner. Ben, listen, it was good talking to you again, and we'll talk again soon.
Happy Halloween to everyone.
And happy Halloween. Sorry, moi.